Spotlight. I'm your host, Breneta Bowser. We're here today at Enlightened Psychotherapy with Miss Cheryl Ivory. She's been here with us a couple of times before. We're delighted to have her back again. We so appreciate her for taking this time with us to discuss some issues that sometimes we don't, we're a little afraid to discuss or maybe admit that we are struggling in those issues. So welcome back again, Mrs. Ivory. Today, we're going to be discussing a topic that's really close to my heart because I do have certain type of feelings about this topic. We're approaching the holiday season. It's going to be Thanksgiving next Thursday. Then we have the Christmas holidays. And during this time, people really struggle even more so with grieving. And so we're going to be discussing today dealing with grief during the holiday season. Okay, so Cheryl, just like I said, people are really grieving because they've lost a loved one or a best friend. And around this time of year, look like it's a extra hard on a person. As we know that grieving is hard anyway. But around this time, it's very difficult because you're thinking about that pineapple cake that grandma used to make or mama's, dressing or sweet potato pie. So can you give us some things that we can maybe help us cope with it or help us deal with it?
Okay. Absolutely. Thank you again so much for having me on today. When you begin to talk about grief, it looks different for everybody.
Yes.
And so when you say give you tools to help you cope with it, it depends on who, what, when, where, and why. Because there's different ways. Men grieve different from women, and women grieve different from children.
Yes.
So when we begin to look at it, and it depends on holiday. I've seen so many people who just don't want to celebrate at all because their loved one cannot be here. Well, not celebrating, and this is going to sound ugly, but not celebrating is not going to bring them back. And we hear what people would not want us to do. Our loved ones wouldn't want us to do this, that, or the other. The truth of the matter is you have to be comfortable within yourself as to what you should do for your holiday. Crying. It's okay to cry, but we don't cry as if one has no hope.
That's right.
We stick with the principles. The
Yes.
principles say we don't cry like somebody that has no hope. So if you find yourself crying 6 years after your loved one has passed, then there was something else going on, and you absolutely have to seek professional help because that goes into what we call complicated grief. But some easy tools of things that we can do is instead of hiding from the loss, we can embrace it. Remember our loved ones.
Okay.
And begin to remember, do you remember when grandma baked that cake? Let me see if I can recreate it.
Right.
She may have had that little secret that she put out there
Yes,
that nobody
the
knew
secret
about.
ingredient.
Yeah. And so then everybody in the family is trying to figure out what the grandma put in her cake.
Right.
So instead of going, oh, boo-hoo, grandma's not here, we embrace the fact that the things that she taught us.
Right.
So we embrace our loved ones and the things that they brought into our life. So we do that by remembering and not trying to forget. Sometimes during the holidays when it gets really hard,
Yes.
we can write letters. And I especially love children to write letters to their loved ones.
Okay.
And they can just catch them up on everything that is bothering them.
Okay.
Just write it out. Grandma, I miss you so much. I remember this year I'm not going to have your coconut cake.
Right.
Mama says she's going to try to make it, but oh Lord.
Yes.
And
yes.
then it brings a little humor into the situation.
Right.
So, especially with children. Children act out. Children go from one extreme to the other. They may be extremely bad, and I mean, start making F's, don't do their work in class, don't talk or start talking back. And then they go to the other extreme where they don't say anything.
Wow.
And you don't really know how to gauge them because they're not saying anything. You don't see them crying. It doesn't mean that they're not hurting.
Okay.
A lot of times we think, oh, that one's okay. they're not okay. They still hurt. They're still bleeding, except they have learned how to hide their hurt.
Okay.
And so what they've done is bottled it up, pressed it down, and if you're not careful, one day it's going to go chicka-chicka-boom. And they're going to blow up, and everybody's going to think it came out of nowhere. They may see you sitting around laughing and talking, and they don't understand how you could go on with your normal life.
Oh, wow.
And they're hurting so bad, but they haven't shared that they're hurting, but you should just know through osmosis that they're hurting. And so we kind of watch out for the silent ones.
For the silent ones.
Uh-huh.
You said something, let me kind of go back. You said something, and I'm saying this because people say a lot of, in my opinion, improper things when someone loses a loved one. You know, you shouldn't be grieving. You know, how long are you going to grieve? Mm-hmm. I've heard people say that.
Yeah.
I heard people say, you know, get over it, you need to deal with it. Such and such person is in a better place, and the list is going on. And it just like sometimes they make the statements, and it could be that their heart is in the right place, but you make it at an inappropriate time. So you said something earlier about crying. I've heard people say, don't cry, because John and Susie, they wouldn't want you to cry. So crying is a healthy thing to do, because you're letting it out. Hey, I miss my loved one. I miss this person. This person is not here. I heard people say, you know, don't cry. You're going to make yourself sick. Can you give us a little?
It's kind of like old wives' tales. In most old wives' tales, there's a little bit of truth to all of them.
Right.
You know, maybe Uncle Joe wouldn't want you to cry for him. But not because it's going to make you sick, but because he wants you to grieve in an appropriate manner. Right. So cry. But when it becomes overwhelming, yes, that's all you do, then that becomes unhealthy. And some people cry to the point that they start hyperventilating. So when you say don't make yourself sick, then they take on a whole nother role. And it stops becoming grief, and it starts becoming complicated.
Oh, wow.
And I'm not going to say they're going to make themselves physically sick, but you can also be sick in your mind. Okay. And you start holding on, and then you begin to distort truth. Because all of a sudden, the deceased, all of a sudden is great, grand, bigger than life. And the reality is sometimes they weren't always good people. And you've made up stories about them to help you deal with the loss. Because everybody dead should be great.
Okay. Oh, wow. That's a very powerful statement that you just made. I've heard people say, and again, these are things that I'm thankful that my husband and I had training in ministry, because even being a preacher, sometimes we don't always say the right things when counseling people. So because you're a preacher, or, you know, sometimes people try to give you, like I say, 5,000 scriptures to deal with grief. I know what the Word of God says, you know. I know that they're in a better place. I know all of that. But right now, I don't want to hear that, okay? I've heard people say...
Let me show you something. I'm going to interrupt you. I want to show you something. If I can just do this, when you're having your moment, and I can just sit and hold your hand and allow you to just feel my love and not say a word, I can't fix it. I cannot bring your loved one back. Yes. But I can sit here and I can hold your hand.
Yes.
And I can just love on you from here. Yes. And just let you have your moment. Yes. And when you get tired, you take your hand back, and then I'll know that you're ready to move on to the next phase.
Did you guys see that? That was perfect. Because I'm a person that sometimes I may cry, or like the family is crying. So sometimes I just embrace a person. I'll be quiet and just listen to them. And we have to learn that all the time you don't need to give them all these words because you feel you need to say something. But like Cheryl just showed us, just hold their hand. Just take them to lunch. Maybe they want to go to lunch. Get them out of the house. Maybe give them a hug. You know, something, people all the time don't need, like I said, the 5,000 scriptures. They don't need you to tell them about, the person wouldn't want you crying. They would, they're in a better place. They know that. They know if the person died from a terminal illness, the person is not suffering. So that's not an appropriate time to say that. I want to go back to something else that you said. When it comes to children, and a lot of times people don't know how to deal with children who are grieving. When we're saying, oh, they just acting out, they bad, they done turn bad. But that's their way of grieving. If they start acting out in school or maybe even talking back. I know that we have to draw a line because they still have to be respectful. How can we give us some tools or maybe some things to look for so we won't just assume little Johnny or little Susie are just, just being disrespectful? We need to understand that if it's their mother, their father, even a grandparent, or God forbid, a sibling, they need to have that space to grieve. So what should we do? How should we handle it?
I like what you asked. You said, what do we look for? We look for changes. We look to see if their behavior has shifted, then we automatically know they're going through something. And the shifting can manifest in so many different ways. The number one thing that we see is attitude and grades. If you have a child that did not ever talk back or be rude, they were mannerable children, and all of a sudden they're disrespectful, then one of the things you can do is sit them down and talk to them. There's a wonderful organization called Bo's Place, and they work really well with children. Really well with children. And I know I'm a therapist, but I also believe in making referrals out. They know how they work with the children on their level. They have groups for them. If you find that you can't manage them on your own and you don't know what to do, because don't forget you're dealing with your grief as well.
Right.
So then you're dealing with your grief and their grief. And they don't think that you care because, again, you're laughing and talking. And I want to also we're bringing in children, but I also want to bring in men.
Yes.
Because men grieve different. Just like with their grief, it's an emotion. You put them in front of a ball game and they're rah, rah, rah.
Yes.
But then you put them in front of a casket and they don't know what to do.
Something totally different.
And they may snap you up. Every time you talk to them, it seems like they're angry. Anger is an emotion that they know how to deal with. But they don't know how to deal with crying. Because why? They were taught from little boys. Men don't cry.
Yes.
And so what am I supposed to do if I'm hurting, but I can't be allowed to cry? I can't let you see my weakness. So men shows out differently. And, we have Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, who came up with the 5 stages of grief. Denial. And acceptance. We know those two polar ends.
Right.
Denial. But in the middle of that comes depression. Comes the depression is people think it shouldn't happen. I include grief and guilt inside of that, because sometimes people are guilty. I didn't do this. The woulda, coulda, shouldas.
Yes.
And then there's bargaining. Oh, bargaining. If you bring them back out, I'll be a better person. I'll do this. I'll do that. I won't be the. We can't bargain with God. When He makes up His mind, it's made up.
Yes.
And so we don't always deal with that. And then finally we get to acceptance, and we find out that, yes, I've lost them, but I can move on without feeling the guilt. So we want to always just remember that.
I want to go back to what you said about men. You have someone who's their wife, you've been married 30, 40, 50 years now, the wife is gone. So now you have this man, because like you said, we teach men, you don't cry. We teach the boys real men don't cry. So now family members, and everyone is looking at him like, okay, I guess his wife wasn't that important to him because he's not showing any emotions. He's going about life as usual. But what you're saying is because they're taught that, we don't know. I guess would like to throw in when those silent moments, when everyone isn't around, when they're home by themselves, when they're sleeping on one side of the bed because they don't want to sleep on her side of the bed. We don't know how they're doing when they're alone. So we shouldn't assume because it's a man that he's just he's not missing his wife.
And another thing a man will do quicker than a woman is he'll replace her.
Yes, thinks he can replace her.
He will find somebody else to fill that spot. And what we have to understand is this spot has been filled for so long that he now feels like he's a half of a person until he gets his other half, and he will replace her. Not that he did not love the first mate, but he's trying to fill a void within himself.
So that's why we have people would say, well, he must have had her before Sister Betty died, because now it hasn't even been a whole year, and now he's remarried. And you're saying when that's your life partner, 40, 50 years or 30 plus years. So now he doesn't know really how to live by himself because he hasn't had to do that for 30 plus years.
Who's going to cook for him? Who's going to clean for him? Who's going to do all these things, the little things in life that we take for granted?
Yes.
That a wife does in his life.
Or just that companion. If he and his wife like to go to dinner,
both ways.
The same thing with the wife. Well, I went back to the men because women, we have the tendency we're going to let it out. We're going to tell someone usually. But the men walk around with a lot of stuff on them. And we think, they have to have this S on their chest for Superman. Right. And they great men, strong men, but they hurt just like, everyone else hurt. I want to kind of throw something else in here. Sometimes I've ministered to people that are angry. They are so angry because that person died. I'm saying that they were square at that person and shaking their fists because they're angry. And
I noticed I only gave you 4 of the 5.
Yes, that anger. And I want to just be transparent myself. Several years ago, I had a dear, dear, dear friend of mine that I love tremendously. She had something going on in her life, and she and I took a trip. And was praying with her, found out what that situation was. Came back, I was all excited, told her husband, and we dealt with that situation. And I get a call some months later, that situation came up again and she died. So I was mad at her. I'm going to be honest, it took me some years. I know that may sound bad. Oh, you're a woman of God. Yes, I'm a woman of God, but she was my dear, 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 dear friend. But I was angry at her and said, I dare you leave us. And left your husband, how much he loves you, and now he's crying on me and my husband. All of us are messed up.
And guess what else? People get mad at God.
Yes, they do.
They shake their fist
at
Almighty God.
Yes.
Because they said, you could have stopped this.
Yes.
You could have prevented this.
Yes.
You already knew.
Yes, and how you're a loving God. Why did you let such and such person die that way?
Why do bad things happen to good people?
Yes.
Because he's a sovereign God.
Yes.
And he does know what's best even when we don't. And it's okay to be angry because he already knows us.
Yes.
He knows that we're going to be angry. Because anger really is another form of hurt.
Yes.
And because hurt, how do you express hurt? It's got to be able to manifest itself some kind of way.
Yes.
And so it comes out in an emotion that you can deal with.
That's right.
It also shows up in promiscuity. Can I say the word? Promiscuous. People just become very active in sex.
Really? Because they're angry.
Alcohol. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Oh, wow.
And they act out with things that are tangible.
So, I'm sorry. I have to sit up now. So you're saying a person who's angry because someone passed away. So they return, not like the kid who's acting out for whatever reason, but an adult person.
Children will also subscribe to those same things.
Sex and drugs
And
can be
alcohol.
something they turn to be the
Tangible.
comfort.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, this is good stuff you're giving us. I want to go back to something else you said earlier. Sometimes people don't want to celebrate the holidays. And what I've told people, leave them alone. It's new. Has been 30 days or maybe 30 or 60 days and maybe it's even the first year. The first everything, just ministering with two people is the hardest. Even when I lost my best friend, the first everything is the hardest thing to deal with. So would you agree, your professional opinion, that you need to back up and let them have their space? In the beginning, I'm not saying it's 10, 20 years down the road, but in the beginning, do you need to kind of back up,
It
let
depends
them
on how far
process?
back you go. You need to be this close where you
Okay.
can still reach out and touch them
Okay.
if they need you to. I still say invite them to the dinner.
Okay.
Invite them to the family functions.
Okay.
It's up to them to choose whether or not they can deal with it. And sometimes coming together helps to remember, because everybody's talking about, do you remember this and remember this?
Right.
And, oh, remember last year, oh my goodness, and
Right.
be able to begin the healing process.
And everybody, when it's
When you're
laughing.
isolated,
Right.
you're trying to deal with it by yourself, sometimes you don't deal with it.
So, something you said earlier, when everyone comes together, like Thanksgiving is coming. So, everyone is in the room, like you said, we're talking about how uncle or auntie or mama or grandma used to cook that cake or whatever. And you're coming together as a family, you're sharing the stories. So, you're rejoicing. You're coming together as a family, and you're remembering the good things about your loved one. So, that's a
Sometimes
healthy
you can
thing.
remember the bad stuff too.
Okay.
Do you remember how Mama used to whoop us? you know, you remember those stories as
That's not the
well.
ones we want to talk about, though.
But those are things that you can also laugh about
right.
later. And because now you have to remember why Mama whooped you.
Right, right. Don't
She
you
whooped you
remember that we
because-
was bad and we went and stole the neighbor's roses out the garden and
Or watermelons upside the road.
oh.
Okay, yeah. But so
Yes.
we can also remember that we were not perfect and they weren't perfect.
Right.
Because sometimes you say, you know, she whooped me and I didn't do nothing.
Okay.
So we can remember the bad things and it's still okay.
Okay.
It's still okay.
Okay. So I'm going to ask a question, and I hate this because I hate for people that say it. How long? Okay, let me start. Let me go back. In my opinion, I don't think it's fair to tell someone how long they should grieve over a loved one. That's my personal opinion. I'm not the licensed counselor. Mrs. Ivory is the licensed counselor.
But I'm going to agree with you.
Because we may have both lost whoever, Grandma Candy Cane, but my relationship with my grandma and your relationship with your grandma could be totally different. Or it could be that we both had a great relationship with our grandmas, but we both handled grieving differently.
Absolutely.
So, is there a time? Should we be giving people a time stamp on how long they should grieve? And I'm gonna tell you, Cheryl, that just really upsets me. That burns my bacon.
There is no set amount of time. What you do want to be careful is that it doesn't extend years and years and years, because then it becomes twisted. So I can't tell you that you should be through with your grieving process in a year.
Yes.
But after a year, then we need to figure out, why are you still grieving so hard over this one that you lost? I understand that you miss them. I understand that there's a vacancy in your life, but what is preventing you from moving forward? So then we begin to look at it after a year. We begin to look at it. Not to say that it's still not, but then I'm beginning to look at, what else is going on and what else has happened to make this one so hard.
Wow. So, again, we're not going to tell, and if any of you out there are watching this, please take these things into consideration. Please take this valuable education that you're getting. Cheryl is a licensed professional counselor. So we didn't just go pick Susie from under the bridge somewhere to come in here and tell y'all these wonderful things. She's a licensed professional counselor. These are things that she deals with on a regular basis. So we didn't, she's telling you valuable information. Hope that it will help you and help your friends. They help you even when you're talking, speaking with people who are grieving. I'm gonna ask her one final question. Now, unfortunately, I've seen this happen. Sometimes when a family loses a loved one, everyone is grieving their own way, and sometimes it splits the family. And I don't understand that, because to me, like I said, my opinion, I'm not a licensed counselor. In my opinion, maybe you guys should draw closer together as a family union, because you were already close, or just speak in terms or whatever. But now the loved one is going to, everyone said they love and everyone adored this person and everyone used to come to the family gatherings. But now mama or big papa is gone and there's a family split. Why is this?
One word?
Yes.
Let's answer that. Money.
Money?
Mm-hmm. Somebody got more than somebody else, or somebody didn't get anything, or somebody thought they should have gotten something. Money, property, jewelry, financial.
What about when there's not any money, no jewelry, no? We're talking about Boo Boo down the street. Boo Boo down the street didn't have 5 cents. We had to do a GoFundMe.
There may have been some jealousy.
Okay. That
it was unresolved. But I'm telling you, 90%.
Wow.
And it could be old money that Mama gave you when you were 12.
Wow.
And you still holding that grudge.
After Mama's gone, and now you're 54
mm-hmm.
or 64, and you're still upset.
You still remember that. And now that Mama, she liked you better than she did me anyway.
Because I remember when she would give you the bigger ice cream cone than me. And that will destroy, after Mama is gone, that destroys the family.
Jealousy, envy, strife, all of those good words.
Wow.
A lot of it stems from finances. But can I bring one more topic up before we go?
Yes.
Just quickly, I want to touch on sudden death. When a loved one has not been sick, maybe it was through just death, murder, something. Those are the hardest ones to get over and get past, because they were young, healthy. Dealing with those, absolutely somebody should get help if they can't deal with it, because those sudden deaths pull on the heartstrings more than a sickness.
Wow. I've seen that a lot. People, because it's all of a sudden, and you're like, God, why? This person exercised, this person even ain't healthy. I don't understand what happened. I mean, what do you mean they're gone? Where are they gone?
Right.
What happened?
It goes back to that shock and denial.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Thank you for bringing up that question. Just before we go, I'm going to ask Cheryl to give her her contact information.
Okay. Thank you. It's enlightenedpsychotherapy.com, and my phone number is 832-329-8500. Thank you.
Again, thank you for tuning in today to Spotlight. I'm your host, Breneta. Till next time, be blessed.